The Alien movie contains mysteries that we explore in the videos. What the mysteries are and why they are in the movie is due to the background and production of the Alien movie. The movie's script changed several times before the movie was produced and during production. In addition, scenes were added and changed to the movie during production. Not all of these changes are noted in the scripts. The android Ash is one of the most intriguing characters in the film, playing a central role in both the story and the overall structure of Alien in multiple ways. In this video, we'll explore the background of the character Ash, along with some details from the original story that didn't make it into the final film. Many of these elements stem from deleted scenes that, while removed, were crucial in shaping the original narrative of Alien. Let's begin with Ash's origins. The android character did not exist in Dan O'Bannon's original script. When Walter Hill and David Giler began developing the screenplay for production, adapting O'Bannon's story, they experimented with different plot directions and new ideas that eventually led to the creation of Ash. Hill and Giler attempted to create a backstory for the alien eggs discovered on the planetoid. At one stage in the story's development, the eggs were tied to an illegal operation run by a corporation. However, this idea was eventually dropped, leaving the origin of the alien eggs shrouded in mystery. The theme of secretive or manipulative forces, however, persisted in later drafts of the screenplay. Initially, this concept was transferred to Nostromo's central computer, Mother. The idea was that the computer would secretly direct the crew's actions for the benefit of the alien organism. Ultimately, the evil computer concept was abandoned, as it had already been explored in several earlier science fiction films, most notably 2001, A Space Odyssey. As Hill and Giler continued developing the script, they completely redefined the crew of the Nostromo. Each character was given distinct traits: gender, strengths, personality, and social standing within the group. This process of shaping the characters was crucial as it laid the foundation for the rich narrative depth that defines the film's storytelling. During the process of defining the characters, Hill came up with the idea of Ash, an android with a secret corporate agenda unknown to the rest of the Nostromo crew. This concept quickly evolved into a story element where the crew remains unaware that Ash is, in fact, an android. The idea then began to take shape through specific scenes. The first was one in which the android appears decapitated, which became the foundation for Ash's storyline. Some have speculated that Hill's concept may have been inspired by an earlier moment in Dan O'Bannon's original story, where the character Melkonis has his head torn off, his body still twitching and struggling afterward. The original writers, Ron Shusett and Dan O'Bannon, were highly critical of Hill and Giler's various rewrites, believing that their changes only weakened the story. However, the introduction of the android completely changed Shusett's opinion. He praised the idea, calling it the best addition to the story since the chestburster. Dan O'Bannon, on the other hand, disliked the android concept. He criticized Hill and Giler for adding Ash merely to create a subplot, saying he saw nothing particularly compelling about revealing that someone was a robot. Nevertheless, O'Bannon later praised both Ian Holm's performance and Ridley Scott's direction for how effectively the Ash character was portrayed on screen. In the original Alien storyline, Ash is introduced as a new crew member aboard the Nostromo. The rest of the crew had already known each other prior to the mission, while Ash was assigned to the team at Thetis just 2 days before the ship's departure. In the film, Ash's true nature is kept well hidden from the audience. Throughout several scenes, actor Ian Holm improvised subtle, peculiar gestures to hint at his artificial nature. For instance, he performs strange jogging in place in his blister, and again, just before looking into the microscope, he performs odd facial movements. Ridley Scott greatly appreciated Holmes' improvised mannerisms, stating that they worked perfectly as subtle visual cues to the audience about Ash's true identity. In the story, Ripley is the character who gradually begins to suspect Ash's behavior. According to the screenplay, Ripley's doubts toward Ash build up step by step. Originally, after Kane's funeral, even Dallas starts to question Ash's actions, but this was cut out from the film. Ripley's first moment of suspicion arises when Dallas, Kane, and Lambert are approaching the derelict ship, and ECIU manages to decode the signal, revealing it's actually a warning. Ripley insists on going to warn the trio, but Ash stops her, citing a regulation that requires a minimum crew to remain on board to ensure the ship can take off. In the final film, these specific lines from Ash were removed, and instead, he simply persuades Ripley to stay on the ship through conversation. The next moment of Ripley's suspicion occurs when Kane, Dallas, and Lambert return to the ship, and Ash lets them in, violating quarantine protocol. Ripley's doubts about Ash's behavior begin to grow as the crew becomes more aware of the alien organism. In a deleted scene, after the acid from the creature's blood burns through several decks, the crew returns to the infirmary. Ripley notices a stain in Kane's lungs on the X-ray screen. Ash claims he doesn't know what it is, saying it's blocking the scanner. In this moment, it becomes clear that Ash knows the creature on Kane's face isn't just a simple parasite, and Ripley begins to suspect the same. Soon after, Ash conceals his findings about the alien from Ripley while working in the infirmary's lab. Ripley's suspicions become more evident in the scene where Dallas, Ripley, and Ash examine the dead facehugger. Ripley wants to destroy the creature, while Ash insists on preserving it. Dallas ultimately leaves the decision to Ash. In a deleted scene that follows, Ash carefully seals the dead facehugger inside a vacuum tube as Ripley, visibly frustrated, mutters that she needs some coffee and walks out. In a following corridor exchange, Ripley confides in Dallas, saying she doesn't trust Ash. Ash's awareness of the alien embryo inside Kane becomes especially apparent at the beginning of the chestburster scene. His lighthearted demeanor suddenly turns grave as he watches Kane, sensing what's about to happen, as if the embryo is somehow signaling its imminent emergence to him in advance. Ripley's strongest suspicions about Ash finally arise during the sequence involving the computer key and the tense airlock scene. The computer key appears only briefly in the final version of the film. It's seen when both Dallas and Ripley visit Mother, each entering the key to access the system. In the original script, however, the computer key played a much larger role, forming an entire subplot of its own. The key was described as a physical object that had to remain in someone's possession at all times. Initially, it was held by Dallas. Before entering the ventilation shaft, Dallas hands the key to Ash, instructing him to give it to Ripley if he doesn't make it back. When Dallas fails to return, Ripley confronts Ash and asks for Dallas's computer key, but Ash denies knowing where it is. This deception prevents Ripley from accessing Mother to uncover Special Order 937 and Ash's true background. In a deleted sequence where Ash sabotages the crew's attempt to trap the alien in the airlock, Ripley becomes completely certain that Ash is acting against them. She still doesn't understand why he's doing it, nor can she yet prove it, but her suspicions are now absolute. After the ventilation shaft sequence, the crew gathers to plan their next move. This scene originally continued into a deleted moment where Ripley comforts Lambert, an important sequence because it reveals Ripley's detective work regarding Ash, as well as her growing suspicion that he may not even be human. In the scene, Ripley directly asks Lambert if she has ever had sexual relations with Ash. To viewers unfamiliar with the original script, this question may seem odd or out of place. However, it was tied to Ridley Scott's early concept that long-duration space travel required maintaining crew psychological health through sexual activity among crew members. Essentially, the crew would provide relief to one another as a way to ease tension and isolation in space. This sexual theme appeared in the screenplay through scenes like the deleted Ripley and Dallas sex scene. Ridley Scott originally wanted to explore this concept further in the film's tone and character relationships. The same theme also extends to moments such as Parker's crude joke to Lambert at the beginning of the chestburster scene. Ultimately, however, Scott chose to scale back most of the sexual elements in the final cut of Alien. When Ripley asks Lambert about Ash's interest in sex, her real intention is to determine whether Ash is truly human. When Lambert replies that Ash showed no interest in sexual activity, it reinforces Ripley's suspicion that he might be an android. In the original version of the story, Ripley ultimately confirms her suspicions about Ash's sabotage when she enters his blister compartment and discovers Dallas's missing computer key there. She also finds a video recording made by Ash, showing an X-ray of Kane with a clearly visible alien embryo inside him. Only after these discoveries does Ripley access the mother computer, where she learns the truth that Ash has been working against the crew. The confrontation between Ripley and Ash in the computer room and later in the mess hall was filmed 5 times between July and December 1978. As a result, many different versions of the scene were filmed. In the earlier versions of the script, Ash attacks Ripley in the computer room without any dialogue. Ripley tries to defend herself, but it's useless. She triggers an alarm and attempts to reach for a laser gun on the wall, but fails. Ash beats Ripley until Lambert and Parker arrive in response to the alarm. Ash throws Lambert across the room, and Parker strikes Ash with a large wrench, knocking his head clean off. After this version, the scene was slightly revised, removing both the laser gun and the alarm. In the following version, Ripley manages to escape into the mess hall, where Lambert and Parker arrive moments later, and the fight continues there. The next revision was more substantial. When Ash enters the computer room, he no longer attacks Ripley right away, but behaves in a hostile and mocking manner instead. The scene was expanded with additional dialogue and restructured so that Ash attacks Ripley only in the mess hall, as seen in the film. In the final version of the script on which the scene was filmed, Ripley learns from the mother computer that Ash had previously warned the alien during the airlock sequence when the crew tried to trap it. Mother also reveals that Ash has been actively protecting the creature. Since the airlock scene was removed from the final cut, these revelations from the computer were also omitted from the finished film. Ash then enters the computer room, creating a tense standoff. His demeanor is menacing toward Ripley, who tries to play for time while looking for a way to escape. They exchange a few charged words before Ripley suddenly bolts from the room. In the final film, the entire scene plays out quite differently. Ash appears calm and even somewhat helpful toward Ripley while she's in the computer room. Ripley, growing increasingly agitated, suddenly attacks him, leaving Ash visibly confused by her outburst. This moment subtly reinforces his android nature, as his reaction lacks genuine human emotion. The last clear hint of Ash's artificial identity comes when he begins to sweat a milky white fluid, which Ripley immediately notices. Among fans, it has been speculated that the white fluid running down Ash's forehead comes from a head wound, and that the blood dripping from Ripley's nose is a result of their earlier fight in the computer room. This has led many to believe that these footages in the final film may actually are cut from earlier versions of the scene. According to the original screenplay, Ash was never meant to suffocate Ripley with a rolled-up magazine. Instead, he was originally scripted to attempt to strangle her directly. Ridley Scott wanted to emphasize the sexual undertone of the scene, so the method of attack was changed to suffocation with a rolled-up magazine. The idea behind this was to depict Ash's twisted, mechanical attempt at expressing sexual desire toward Ripley, effectively framing the act as a symbolic attempt at oral rape. The underlying concept was that Ash, being an android, lacked a true understanding of human sexuality, and his actions reflected that confusion. The suffocation attempt with the magazine also served as another subtle clue to Ash's abnormality, though for most viewers, it likely appeared only as a disturbing and inexplicable act. The moment when Parker knocks off Ash's head and the android continues to move was filmed using a practical prop of Ash's upper body mounted on a shorter performer. In the earlier drafts, the scene in which Ash is reactivated did not exist. In these versions, it was Ripley who explained to Lambert and Parker that the company viewed the alien creatures as biological weapons bred on the planetoid, and that Ash had been assigned to retrieve one. Eventually, the scene of Ash's reactivation was added to the story. The scene where Ash is reactivated was shot several times. Ridley Scott was dissatisfied with Ash's dialogue, leading David Goehler and Walter Hill to rewrite it multiple times. Ian Holm returned to the studio for reshoots in December 1978, long after principal photography had wrapped. Scott wanted the scene to be revealing, an opportunity for Ash to disclose deeper information about the alien. In one early version of the script, Ash explains that the alien species are considered key assets by the company, and that their discovery deep in space is part of a systematic search effort. For that reason, androids are commonly placed aboard commercial spacecraft. In another version of the script, Ash reveals that the alien will soon die of natural causes, as its lifespan is extremely short. While Parker initially takes this as good news, Ripley quickly realizes the danger. Once the creature dies, its body will decompose and release its acidic blood, burning through the hull and decompressing the entire ship. Ripley then asks Ash how the alien was supposed to reach Earth if it was destined to die so quickly. Ash explains that the eggs were the company's true priority, not the fully grown organism. The eggs on the ship will survive, he says, even in a vacuum. In some drafts, Ash also implies that he is capable of communicating directly with the alien creature. Several versions of the screenplay include a sequence where Ash tries to deceive the crew into repairing him after his decapitation. He insists that, if reconnected, he can help them survive. Ultimately, Ridley Scott decided to discard this more revealing version of the scene, feeling that it would have been too long and slowed down the film's pacing. The final edit kept Ash's dialogue concise and chilling, leaving the mystery and his true knowledge of the alien to the audience's imagination. Originally, Ridley Scott wanted to use extensive animatronics for the scene. A puppet head was constructed specifically for it, but test footage quickly revealed the result to be a disaster. The main issue was that the puppet's head had shrunk during production, making it look noticeably unlike Ian Holm. Additionally, the animatronics' movements were stiff and unnatural, though this was partly intentional, as Ash was supposed to be severely damaged at that point in the story. In the end, the scene was filmed much more simply. Ian Holm sat beneath the table with only his head visible above the surface. The puppet was used only for the initial reactivation sequence and again at the end when Ripley knocks Ash's head backward. These moments have been widely criticized, as the edits between Holmes' real head and the puppet are quite obvious on screen. The role and significance of the Ash android in Alien are immense. Without him, a major part of the film's depth and narrative tension would have been lost. Ash's character also became highly popular among audiences, which led to androids appearing in every subsequent Alien film and also in the Alien Earth TV series. In Alien Romulus, a new android named Rook is introduced, designed to resemble Ash. While Fede Alvarez's tribute to Ian Holm's character was a thoughtful idea, its execution has faced heavy criticism from many Alien fans. Share your thoughts in the comments. What did you think of the Ash android in the film? And do you think the deleted scenes related to his actions should have been included? Remember to like the video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Subscribing is free, and this way you'll always get notified whenever new content related to the Alien franchise is uploaded to the channel.
I'm gonna ask you a question. Have you ever slept with Ash?
No. Dare say I don't think he was particularly interested.
Okay, look. I want you to come into the bridge and just plot our course. I want to see where we are, okay? Make sure we're still on course.